My name is Marcin Kubacki, I'm Chief Software Architect, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use Tape Manager, a brand new feature of the Storware Backup and Recovery 6.0. Let's start by logging into the console. This is my small environment. I have one node, and in the backup destinations is actually the new tab here, Tape Pools, which is the central point for tape management. Tape Manager is a new component that has been added with this release. Tape Manager is installed on the remote system. The very first step actually is to install the RPM on your remote host that has physical access to your tape library. It's called SBR Tape Manager. That's a remote component that actually uses SCSI generic driver that is able to read and write to the tapes directly using the Linux drivers, compatible with most of the tape libraries on the market. Notice that I have already one virtual tape attached. In our case, it's going to be Quad Store, and it has 2 drives and 2 tapes already available. Once you have installed the Tape Manager, you need to define the settings in here in the Tape Pools Tape Managers. So you click Create, and here you have some details. In my case, I need to get a key that is in the config directory on the remote host where I installed my Tape Manager. And here there is a secret file. This secret file needs to be cut, and here is the key that you need to paste here as the secret key underneath the secret key section. Once you have saved, you'll have synchronization task being created. It collects all of the information about the available tape drives, tapes, and slots available. And once it is completed, you are able to use Tape Manager as another backup destination in Storware Backup and Recovery product. Tapes are currently are a technical preview currently, and they are going to be gradually implemented on other source types as they are now. Currently, they are supported only for virtual environments, storage, and applications. Application type sources. Inventory synchronization has completed, and now you can use it as a target for your policies. So in my case, let me just run a quick backup on one of my virtual machines. It's going to be incremental. Notice that I have one policy in here, and this policy here in the rule section refers to our backup destination. In the meantime, I'll explain to you how to configure the actual pool. So once you have the manager in Tape Pools, you have to define a pool in this tab. So you click Create, and you will end up with the screen something like this. You need to provide a name, you need to provide a node configuration, so multiple nodes are going to be able to connect to the Tape Manager at the same time. So they are going to back up virtual machines from multiple sources potentially, right? And Tape Pool, in Tape Pool you need to specify a single drive which is responsible for handling the tapes. This drive also needs to have some set of tapes that are going to be used for your backups. So you need to choose Tape Manager. Once you specify Tape Manager, you need to specify detected tape library, and from this tape library you specify drive. Then you need to put check marks on the tapes that are going to be used for this tape pool. Once you have saved the tape pool, and if there are any outstanding drives for the initialization, those drives are going to be taken one by one and inserted to the drive and initialized by Storware Backup and Recovery. This corresponds in our, let's say, 2 virtual tapes correspond to roughly 800 gigabytes of space. And you can obviously add more if you need to gradually later. So if any uninitialized tape is going to appear in this view, eventually you will have all of these drives being initialized. So there is going to be a task once you have clicked saved that is going to take uninitialized tapes and add them to the pool. So your pool can be extended in the future if you need to. The overall backup process is exactly like with the regular non-synthetic backup. So you have an export phase, like my virtual machine has been exported in here, and then you have a store task, which in this case takes data directly from the staging. So the nodes are installed somewhere in your infrastructure. Maybe they reside on your VMware cluster or Ref cluster or whatever. And they have to transfer data to the tape manager. So tape manager potentially is a physical box residing outside of your cluster. Now, once I have done backup, now it's time for the restore. So in the virtual environment section, I click now restore to the hypervisor manager. Next. So let's run restore. And because it is non-synthetic backup provider, it requires data to be merged on the staging. So the data for all full backups and chain of increments is going to be fetched to the staging space on the node and later pushed back to the hypervisor manager that you have selected. In the meantime, let's go back to the tape pools and notice one more thing. So I can define multiple pools. Currently the limitation is to have one drive per pool, and it cannot be shared at this point. But there is also another tab called locations. That's to have an easy way to mark where your tapes reside once they are no longer present in your Storware Backup and Recovery. I have defined one side, but let's say that I would like to define another one, like remote site 2, for instance, and some description. And this is the way of marking later where the tapes reside once they are no longer detected in the tape manager. So here in the tape manager, if you go to the details, notice that I have additional tabs. In the general, obviously, is the settings tab that you have already seen, but notice that during the inventory synchronization I mentioned before, you have the libraries detected, drives, I have 2 of them, and tapes. One of them has already 2.8 gigabytes space occupied, and the same information is being shown by our VTL. And this concludes this short demo. We have seen how to use tapes together with Storware Backup and Recovery to protect a single virtual machine. We have run backup, restore, and everything what I had to configure was actually a matter of installing the RPM package, providing the key and defining tape manager in the Storware Backup and Recovery user interface, and defining backup destination. The rest of the process is exactly the same as with other non-synthetic backup destinations. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the other videos.